Hello, good morning, good afternoon in Europe. My name is Frank Harder with Bulb Inc. in Livermore, California. We're glad to be here. Thank you very much for Lumitronics for organizing this information event. I'm sorry to be not able or not to be able to be here in person today. This is a recording due to the time zone difference. We're looking forward today to present to you the pursuit of human health improvement by using solid state UVB treatment in order to improve vitamin D enhancement. Vitamin D deficiency is the so-called global silent and invisible pandemic. Vitamin D deficiency is extremely common and affecting approximately 42% of the US population, according to research published in the National Institutes of Health database. Because of this, some researchers around the globe even refer to vitamin D deficiency, or in short VDD, as invisible pandemic. According to University of Nebraska, most people with vitamin D deficiency are asymptotic. However, if you are exhausted, your bone hurt, if you experience muscle weakness or mood changes, that is an indication that something may be abnormal within your body. Symptoms of vitamin D deficiency may include fatigue, most not sleeping well, bone pain and achiness, depression, or feelings of sadness, hair loss, muscle weakness, loss of appetite, getting sick more easily and more often. If these are symptoms that sound familiar, it is maybe time to see a doctor that may do a blood test to check your vitamin D levels and see if they are within normal range. Further, NIH has demonstrated in a study vitamin D deficiency in elderly population, risk factors and drug impact vitamin D status in a sample consistent of 125 patients aged 75 years and older, which plausible associations between the serum D25OH level, which is the vitamin D indicator, patient age, sex, body mass index, renal function, and other phenomena. And results are showing surprisingly that elderly males suffered from serious vitamin D deficiency compared to elderly females. In conclusion of this study, higher age is an independent risk factor of vitamin D deficiency. The supplementary dose of vitamin D should be precisely defined to achieve the optimal serum 25 OHD level for elderly people. A complementary study by NIH in 2009 actually has also shown the risk for cardiovascular disease, provided relevant insight that the classic function of vitamin D is to increase the absorption of calcium for proper mineralization in bone. The active form of vitamin D acts as steroid hormone by binding to the vitamin D receptor, which is present in many cells throughout the body, including vascular smooth muscle. And recent evidence has demonstrated that individuals deficient in vitamin D are more likely to have so-called cardiovascular disease, CVD. The figure 1 shows the correlation between vitamin D deficiency as well as many side effects, including, of course, cardiovascular disease, which is an important phenomenon to be thinking about and to be acutely aware about. The power of vitamin D and what experts already knew and are still learning about the so-called sunshine vitamin. As described earlier, 1/3 of human adults have low 25 OHD levels, which is roughly 85% in elderly, 75% plus 75 years and older suffer from partially severe vitamin D deficiency, which is causing bone loss and heart diseases. We have three ways to combat vitamin D deficiency, really. Number one, getting vitamin D from food. So in our daily lives, fatty fish like salmon, trout, tuna, mackerel, fish liver, and canned fish like herring or sardines, egg yolk, beef liver, breakfast cereals, milk, almond milk, soy milk, orange juices are vitamin D rich food that we should add to our daily nutrition. Second, take a vitamin D supplement. Over the counter vitamin D supplements, like including cod liver oil, fish oil, and the recommended dietary allowance of vitamin D for young adults is 600 international units, or so-called IUSs. Extremely high vitamin D levels are harmful and can cause nausea, vomiting, confusion, excessive thirst, and kidney stones even. Cystic fibrosis, also called CF, and short bowel syndrome, SBS, patients are unable to absorb vitamin D from the diet and thus are frequently found by severely vitamin D deficient population. Long-term oral VD supplement may cause, in addition, vitamin D toxicity, so-called VDT, and aortic lesions. The third, getting vitamin D from sunlight. 20% of the human body skin needs to be exposed to the sun for about 20 to 40 minutes, or in order to get the 0.25 MED minimum erythema dose, resulting in a daily dose of between 700 and 1000 IU of vitamin D. The sky needs to be cloud free for that treatment, and the sunlight exposure may be direct to human skin, and ideally the human skin may not be protected by a so-called sun blocker. But in terms of our human behavior and statistics and insight, I think it is also relevant to mention that we spend around 90% of our time indoors. What a study says, according to the National Human Activity Pattern Survey. Overall, Americans spend 86.9% indoors on average and another 5.5% inside the vehicle. So in total, roughly 95% of our times we're spending inside, which might be very, very similar to either Europe and or Asia. This nurtures the thesis that we can simply not get enough sunlight for vitamin D production given our habits, especially post-COVID era. We have decided to stay inside, and when we get outside, we usually protect ourselves from the elements such as heat, cold, sunlight, rain, or any other environmental impact. Also, tight control of our daily nutrition in our quite busy lives, eating habits, and even getting the right vitamin D supplements might be difficult given the statistics on global vitamin D deficiency and the risks involved. So what are the alternatives? UVB photolight therapy or treatment of vitamin D deficiency with UV light. Another study of NIH has demonstrated that UV light in patients with so-called malabsorption syndrome has demonstrated that a UV lamp that emits ultraviolet radiation similar to sunlight and thus produces vitamin D in the skin is an excellent alternative for patients who suffer vitamin D deficiency due to fat malabsorption, especially during the winter months when natural sunlight is unable to produce vitamin D to the skin as been required. Such UV lamps are widely available for commercial home use and could potentially be prescribed by doctors to patients with so-called CF or SBS. What I would like to share with you and inform you in addition is that the Minamata Convention, a UN United Nations Environment Program, has emitted new regulation signal to end mercury lamps, and California might take here also again a leadership position. Major highlights of the Minamata Convention include a ban of the new mercury mines, phase out of existing ones, or phase out and phase down of mercury use and a number of products and processes such as mercury lamps. Controlled measures on emissions to air, on releases to land and water, and other regulation. The convention has been in support by 92 countries, led by the United Nations. New regulations have been enforced since 2020. According to LED's magazine issue November 22, across the United States, fluorescent phase-outs are gaining momentum. In September 22, Governor Gavin Newsom, who is the state governor of the state of California, signed a bill that will prohibit sales of mercury-containing compact fluorescent light tubes from 2024, among others. By banning the sale of fluorescent lamps, California extends existing legislation to protect consumers from toxic mercury, while at the same time accelerating the transition to LEDs. California had been once on the forefront of banning mercury through Title 24, introducing LED-based illumination and lighting to commercial and residential buildings, which had been developed by the leadership of Professor Dr. Michael Semenovich, the director of California Lighting Technology Center at the University of Davis, and of course the California Energy Commission in 2010 and onward, which is still in force today. It is expected that California will be leading the solid-state LED UV-based disinfection paradigm shift for the betterment of human health in areas such as air, surface, water, and food disinfection, while driving significant improvement on building energy improvements and the so-called decarbonization and reducing so-called HAI, hospital-acquired infections. Daily recommended vitamin D, or so-called IUS, as we have exploited already before by reference to research, long-term oral vitamin D supplements may pose the risk of vitamin D toxicity and lesions, so-called aortic lesions. If we consider additional UVB light therapy, in general guidance is exposing 20% of the body surface around 3,400 square centimeters to an amount of sunlight equal to 0.25 MED is equivalent to ingesting approximately 700 to 1,000 IUs of vitamin D. This is equivalent to the daily dose of 295 nanometers of light of 3.9 millijoules per square centimeters for 20% of the skin surface conveniently and safely during the day. The safety limits of 295 nanometers of light is 5.6 millijoule per square centimeters over a period of 8 hours, medium, to create this minimum erythema dose. And below you can see the levels of so-called IUs for different ages of our population that we already discussed. So if we talk about mercury lamps, then we need to be, of course, looking into the technology as well as efficiency and its inherent disadvantages. Mercury lamps contain poisonous metal that poses a risk for human health and the environment. The glass tube is fragile, bulky, and optically inefficient in a light fixture. Since it's a radial light source, much of the generated light will get lost in the optical system. And therefore, the total cost of ownership is disadvantageous. In addition, UVB mercury lamps have a short lifespan, require maintenance throughout regular lamp exchanges, and therefore is more hazardous waste. Mercury lamps require a warm-up time to its full efficiency and emission spectrum. They cannot be switched on and off frequently nor modulated in brightness. The efficiency of UVB mercury lamp is below 4%. Since UVB light has to be generated and filtered out the unwanted neighboring wavelength. In conclusion, mercury lamps, and especially UVB mercury lamps, are highly inefficient and difficult to use and to dispose of. Bulb recently has developed and released 295 nanometer narrowband UVB light, which is best, as we have learned, to cure vitamin D deficiency. It is highly efficient. It is available in industry common SMD packages such as S6060 and demonstrates the perfect match between vitamin D required activation or so-called action spectrum for human skin vitamin D production and bulbs UVB LED emission spectrum, as you can see here in the graph. Also, you can see that the natural sunlight has little photometric energy in the 295 nanometer range, which is, again, causing and resulting into longer time exposure requirements by natural sunlight therapy. Also, it has been confirmed that ultraviolet B or UVB emitting diodes are more efficacious and efficient in producing vitamin D in human skin compared to natural sunlight. Therefore, the optimal range of LEDs emitting UVB radiation for vitamin D production was found to be between 293 and 298 nanometers. The 293 to 295 nanometer spectrum especially had been found 2.4 times more efficient converting pre-vitamin D3 in human skin than the sun, thus improving its safety profile. This data provides helpful information for medical device development in the future and can be used for vitamin D supplementation for both healthy and diseased patients. The narrow band 290 to 300 nanometer UVB LED or bulb improves in demonstrated in mass production is the world's highest wall plug efficiency device of 10% from a single chip at a nominal current of 250 milliamps. Provides a long lifetime robust performance of 10,000 hours L70, which is 70% of the initial light output still available after 10,000 hours of operation within specification requirements. It is available for sale, and you may contact the Lumitronics sales and marketing team for further information. If we think about application considerations going forward, what does it mean potentially in our engineering, our science, as well as devices and appliances development? It is recommended to take a 295 nanometer light daily dose, as we discussed, of 3.9 millijoule per square centimeters on a 20% person's skin and equivalent to an intake of 700 to 1000 IUs of vitamin D, which is the doctor's recommended dose. So we need to shine the light of about 6 LEDs, only 6 LEDs, on people's skin while they're wearing goggles or shade to protect the eyes with an effective UVB filter at 1 meter distance for only about 10 minutes each day. That's it. One side of the body exposes 5 minutes, then the body you can turn around, and the other side as well has been exposed for about 5 minutes. This will create the vitamin D deficient desired state and the dose for the day in order to have balanced vitamin D levels. Below are a few examples that we could consider in use of UVB LEDs safely. For example, as part of our bathroom mirror vanity or in a so-called light shower. Exciting. Also, lifestyle choices about the risk of sun exposure may lead into insufficient exposure and result of vitamin D deficiency. Some food can provide significant amount of vitamin D when consistently cumulatively used in the daily diet. However, most research has not focused on assessing edible plants food for potential vitamin D content. It is less well known than vitamin D, is also biosynthesized in plants. Metabolism of vitamin D in plants, UVB irradiation results as a result of the production of vitamin D in so-called mammalian skin and vitamin D2 in yeast and fungi. Both forms have been used as vitamin D supplements in food fortification. A PhD thesis at a university in New Zealand has an intuitive explanation why UVB works to boost growth and increase crop yield. Basically, if you shine at seed and seedling stage in a greenhouse, the high amount of unnatural UVB light, it will tell the plant that there is no competition and that it's already tall enough, so not in a shade. So it will focus on building up disease defense mechanism early when it's just germinated and yet vulnerable. When the seedling has been planted out in the field, the UVB suddenly drops and the plant will think it's now in a shade. So their growth factors are programmed and boosted to grow much taller and to get out of the shade. The UVB dosage to achieve this effect at seedling stage is high, about 10 kilojoule per square meter or 1000 millijoule per square centimeters per day for a week. A 5 by 5 UVB LED array from Bolb puts out roughly 0.25 milliwatt per square centimeters from from 1 meter distance. That means if you do the math, 1000 divided by 0.25 divided by 3600, you get to 1.1 hours of required dose of radiation per day to achieve maximum vitamin D enhancement. That's a rule of thumb, right? Such a lamp can be used in a horticulture setting in order to achieve the appropriate positive side effects. A couple examples. A company in New Zealand has used UVB excessively in research and also application, for example, to grow more strawberries. And the results are quite impressive. So strawberry production is an input intense with high uniformity and quality requirements. And applied at the young runner clone stage, these biolumic UV recipes across a range of strawberries cultivars lead to an average 47% increase in fruit yield per plant across the whole season with no penalties in fruit size or Brix levels. Also, UVB's already been used in crop growth for boosting efficiency and growth. And also here, the results are quite impressive. Increased yearly early seedling vigor can be substantially increased in so-called soybean. You see, dependent on the different setting of the control, between 17 and 39%. In summary, we're looking at global challenges, our global responsibility, as well as the social impact in water, food, and healthcare. UV, UVC, as well as UVB, as we learned now, can be used to disinfect water for water reuse and water safety, can be used in food processing, whether it's growth, post-harvest, pre-harvest, or post-harvest. It can help us to save an enormous amount of food wasted on an annual basis, and ideally also to help dampening the use of the chemical pesticides. But healthcare is also a very important topic as we experience a staggering growth of respiratory diseases and death and hospital-acquired infections that lead to antibiotic resistance. Really, UVC is, and UV for that matter, is the dominant technology that allows for use in these very critical areas. A couple of words about Bulb. We're founded in 2014 in the heart of Silicon Valley. We're a venture-backed company that raised $26 million in total. We're increasing in sales and shipping product, more and more innovative product to more and more customers on a global basis. We create never before possible solid state disinfection solutions together with our customers. And we do have a unique, fully emission, transparent chip stack architecture that allows us to grow permanently to higher and higher wall plug efficiencies. We're releasing our Series B investment round as we speak. And yeah, we would like to say thank you for being able to attend today's contribution to the Lumitronics learning event. And if you have questions, please relate them directly to the Lumitronics team, as I will be happy also to speak to you in person. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.